Well, there is no way around it. Today was a monumental day in 49ers history. And I think that it is completely natural to struggle to fully wrap your head around all of the possible downstream effects of what happened today. Trey Lance, obviously severely injured, fractured ankle, will almost certainly be out for the rest of the season. He's going to have surgery on Monday morning. And Jimmy Garoppolo, who's had such a roller coaster tenure with the 49ers, Hollywood script like stuff, right? Now he's back in QB1 spot. But just considering how much the 49ers invested in Trey Lance, how much Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have riding on his development, combined with the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo and the potentially lucky return of Jimmy Garoppolo for the 49ers, right? He essentially fell into their laps to be able to fit into the salary cap situation here for 2022. All of that adds so many potential offshoots and so many potential ways that this can all play out, not only for the short term, but for the long term. That makes what happened today just truly spectacular setup for drama moving forward with the 49ers. Obviously, a very sad day for Trey Lance. We never like to see injuries, and the 49ers definitely don't want to see that development scuttled because do we actually have a legitimate data point on Trey Lance in 2022 after that whole offseason of work that he put in? I don't think so. I don't think that we do. The monsoon game in Chicago, I don't consider as a legitimate data point, and we only saw him for a little bit more than a drive today. But the truth is that in the short term, the 49ers are a very strong football team, perhaps even stronger right now with Jimmy Garoppolo at QB1 than they were at the start of the day. And that's complicated in and of itself because nuance has to be applied here. The 49ers were hoping that Trey would develop this season and that he'd be more efficient than Jimmy Garoppolo by the end of it. But as far as the here and now goes, the 49ers, yeah, I mean, they could be stronger right now because Trey Lance hadn't really had a chance to embark on that development track yet. So this is a 49ers emergency roster breakdown with the Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo short-term, long-term dynamic taking a 180-degree flip. We have a lot of content up on The Athletic. Matt Barrows is his piece, but this is Marcus Thompson's. Trey Lance always had a rough deal, and now it just got much rougher. Jimmy Garoppolo wrote, Tim Kawakami wrote about Jimmy Garoppolo. It's Jimmy Garoppolo time for the 49ers again, unbelievably, painfully, and inevitably. By the way, Jimmy was really good today. That's something that we're going to talk about. And I wrote about the 49ers defense and how that tied into all of this drama, why Nick Bosa and the 49ers were determined to not let up in their win over the Seahawks. But I think that zooming out is extremely important right now. And looking, I have it on the bottom of the screen. The Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo short-term, long-term dynamic takes a 180-degree flip. And the 49ers were trying to develop Lance for the long term while surviving the short term with him, right? He had a lot to work on. He had to turn into a more polished passer. But that obviously didn't happen, and it's not going to happen in this 2022 season because he fractured his ankle. So now all of a sudden, the Jimmy Garoppolo insurance plan, this is why you buy insurance, that's what Kyle Juszczyk said, has been activated. The Lance long-term plan has been put on hold. And instead of running this complex calculation of, we'll play Trey Lance X amount this season, hopefully the defense can carry us, hopefully we give Trey Lance runway, and hopefully we have a quarterback that's more efficient than Jimmy Garoppolo in his prime by the end of the season for the playoff run, that whole complicated calculus is out the window. The 49ers are back into vintage Shanahan 49ers mode, and that's Jimmy Garoppolo as your quarterback, but with an asterisk, which I'm going to talk about as I break down the roster. So that's why I have this for you. 49ers roster breakdown. Now, if you want to read my piece on Nick Bosa on the 49ers defense, which was awesome today, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the comment section or the chat section for now. But we're going to go through this roster position by position, reset this because so much happened today. By the way, the 49ers kicked the Seahawks' ass. They won 27-7. They look like one of the better teams in the NFL. The roster, the powerful roster that we've been talking about regarding the 49ers over the course of the whole offseason certainly showed up today, and they were disciplined too. They only committed one penalty today after 12 in Chicago last week, and that was a ticky-tack call against Emmanuel Mosley. So we can only do all of this justice by looking at the entire roster of the 49ers, going through this position by position. I've already updated it, and if you guys want to follow along while this goes, go and check out the chat section. I am putting the link for that roster right there for you, so you guys can go check out the Google Doc. I'm sure that we're going to have a lot of viewers. So anyway, welcome to Late Night Lombardi. You had Lombardi leaves Levi's earlier. Good news is I found my wallet, so that's good. It was in my backpack the whole time. Thing is, I probably would have lost reception in the elevator anyway, so that was just to whet your appetite. The Lombardi leaves Levi's. Late Night Lombardi now. This is where we're going to get to the meat of it. Make sure you check out my article, subscribe to The Athletic, do all that good stuff as we go through the 49ers 53-man roster and the practice squad here, position by position. All right, so we're going to make this nice and wide for all you guys. First, QB. I have moved Trey Lance to IR. Sad to say that he's over there. 49ers will officially do that a little bit later this week. Garoppolo is now your starter. Brock Purdy is depth one, and the 49ers will likely add a third quarterback to the practice squad. They'll certainly add a third quarterback. I don't think it's determined if it's going to be a practice squad or a 53-man guy, but they do have one slot left on the 53. Practice squad is filled, but you could promote somebody and then slide that quarterback in there to the open practice squad spot. But anyway, let's talk about this. Trey Lance, the short-term, long-term dynamic, and the flip. Oh boy, where do we start? Maybe I go to the comments section. Maybe I wade in there to see what people are saying, because I have so many thoughts about this. And, you know, you want to stay away from speculation, but obviously there's going to have to be some. We're going to couch some of the speculation with, you know, just a disclaimer that it is speculation. But to me, just think about the absurdity of what got us here. The 49ers were practicing at training camp with the quarterback who had been their QB up through the NFC Championship game, had taken them to the Super Bowl a couple seasons ago, working out on the side. It was a bizarre spectacle, to say the least, because they hadn't been able to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Today, Jimmy admitted that he thought the further training camp went along, the bigger chance there'd be that he'd be playing for somebody else. He didn't think he was going to be playing for the 49ers this year. The 49ers didn't think so. They really lucked out. You buy insurance for situations like this. This is why I talked about the depth of the QB room being so important. But it wasn't that easy to buy this insurance. A lot had to break in the 49ers' favor. They had to get really lucky to be able to buy this Jimmy Garoppolo insurance. The timing of the quarterback market and the injuries elsewhere had to completely work out in the 49ers' favor. Because if there were a market for Garoppolo, the 49ers would have traded him. But there wasn't, because guys stayed healthy. And then after that final preseason game, when everybody was healthy essentially around the league and there were no realistic spots for Jimmy to land, he decided that coming back for the 49ers would be his best bet. So that calculus flipped really quickly, right? It flipped the snap of a finger there at the end of the preseason. And now Garoppolo was back with the 49ers. And now by game 2, he is again in that QB1 spot with Lance done for the season in all likelihood. So, I mean, just to think about how we got from point A to point B, you know, with Garoppolo giving a farewell press conference 2 days after the NFC Championship last year, crazy to me. So I walk up to Jimmy in the locker room today after the game, and, you know, I say, Kyle, just let it rip there, your first few plays. And Jimmy, let's just put it this way, he was very happy that he had the opportunity to let it rip on his first few plays. It was a different Garoppolo than we'd seen over the past couple of years, especially when he's been hurt. He was pushing the ball downfield, 90th percentile average depth of target. Kyle Juszczyk spoke a little bit later. I spoke with Kyle in the locker room too. And it appears that Garoppolo was running the game plan that had been installed for Trey Lance. The 49ers didn't move to something more conservative until halftime when they had the commanding lead. But outside the numbers throws, even obviously some quarterback runs, Garoppolo was running it, and he was airing the ball out, and he was happy about it. He looked like an unencumbered version of himself. And his quote to me was, "It felt like 2017 again." And then he repeated it in the press conference. So, he said it twice. He said it in his locker, and he said it in the press conference. It felt like 2017 again. So the question here is, this is a really fascinating one. which Jimmy Garoppolo are the 49ers going to get moving forward? Because this guy's been through the ringer with the team. Obviously, his first start came against Seattle, right? He relieved CJ Beathard. He relieved an injured CJ Beathard in 2017 in the rain against Seattle. So you fast forward 5 years in the rain against Seattle again, much better 49ers roster. Jimmy Garoppolo relieves another injured quarterback in Trey Lance. I mean, Lance was he in like junior high back in 2017? That's wild. Yeah, I mean, no, he was in high school probably. Yeah, he was definitely in high school. But still, the amount of stuff that's changed in 2017, yet this one fundamental truth, Jimmy Garoppolo replacing an injured 49ers quarterback in the rain against Seattle, remains the same. So that started the 5-game streak where Garoppolo played his best football for the 49ers in 2017. And he wasn't really encumbered by Shanahan's playbook and all these complexities back then. It wasn't encumbered by the ACL tear that happened in 2018, but he delivered a magical stretch of football. My question is, today, Garoppolo played really well. I mean, it was raining and he was still accurate. He was uncorking the football. He wasn't taking sacks. The offensive line played well. We'll talk about them too. But then his demeanor, when I talked to him in the locker room after the game, in the press conference, I mean, he even went over there and signed autographs for all the fans after his presser. I've never seen a 49ers player do that. It seems that Garoppolo just completely let go, completely letting it flow. And when you consider the wild journey to get from point A to point B, it makes sense. You know, he's letting a rip. And that could be a great thing for the 49ers. At the very least, it's going to be an entertaining thing for the 49ers moving through into this 2022 season. Now, they don't have Trey Lance now developing for them. He's going to be rehabbing. And that's where this is really painful for the 49ers, because you wanted to figure out what you had with Trey Lance. And now at the soonest, he's going to be back in all likelihood in 2023, year 3 of his 4-year rookie deal with a 5th-year team option. And you still won't know what exactly you have. They were hoping to bridge that gap this year. And I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, I think, that people are taking it a little bit overboard with the Shanahan commentary here. I've criticized Shanahan for this. I think that Shanahan's big miscalculation was he didn't account for the full injury risk to his quarterback through this kind of long-term development plan. Trey obviously is a raw thrower of the football. He's obviously very smart. He's obviously very athletic. I've done long interviews with Steve Young. We've obviously covered this ad nauseum, right? The 49ers needed to bridge a gap. They needed to build a bridge over a canyon this year. They needed to get Lance from point A, which was right before this game, to point B, which they hoped to reach by the end of the season. And that was the gulf of between not being a proficient, efficient, pro-style, accurate passer to being one. They had to get him there. And to get there, well, the first year he could sit because he had to learn other stuff. But the second year, he had to play. So if he already has to play, but he's not at that level passing yet, by definition, that means he's going to have to run a lot. He's going to have to rely on his other skill set, right? He's going to have to rely on his more developed skill set to be a playable quarterback, to be somebody who's an efficient contributor on a team with a championship window that's open right now. So the 49ers, they made a deal, right? It was a pact that they made. They said, we're going to develop Trey, and the part of this deal is that there's going to be injury risk because he's going to have to run. You listen to Kyle Shanahan's presser, he is not apologetic about Trey Lance running, because guess what? If Trey Lance didn't run, then you wouldn't have a quarterback that was up to par for what the 49ers needed yet. They took a massive swing with Trey Lance, hoping to develop somebody who throws like Drew Brees and runs like Lamar Jackson. But the only way they're going to get the Brees part is if Lance played. And the only way that Lance can play right now is if he ran the football. And the only way he can run the football is if he risks his health. The 49ers rolled the dice. You can criticize the macro all you want. I don't understand people criticizing individual read option runs. What I criticize is, oh my God, if you have this guy, Trey Lance, and you're having to run him in between the tackles just to survive the game, just to give yourself the best chance to win, that's absolutely something that you could question. Why did the 49ers invest so much in him? Why did they put him out there with this game plan while wanting to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo earlier in the offseason without any sort of backup plan that they themselves, I think, orchestrated, because it could be argued that Garoppolo fell into their lap. I mean, these are all fair questions, and this is what makes this situation such an entangled, complicated one. But the bottom line is that the 49ers and their gamble with Trey Lance, their hope to get him across the canyon by building this bridge, failed. The bridge collapsed as they were trying to get across it. Trey Lance got hurt. And you could say it was a fluke injury or whatever, but I mean, Lance got hurt in his 16 carry effort against Arizona last year. He got hurt twice last year, once on a passing play, chipped his finger against the Raiders. And now, I mean, in very limited NFL time, he's gotten hurt 3 times. So you could say it's a fluke. You could say it was bad luck. The bottom line is there's a reason that why running backs get hurt more often than quarterbacks. It's because they put their bodies on the line a whole lot more often. And Trey Lance was putting his body on the line a whole heck of a lot. Now, there is a possibility that because the 49ers did have Jimmy Garoppolo in tow as the backup, that Kyle Shanahan felt a little bit more liberated to run Trey Lance more aggressively. We'll probably never know the answer. We won't know that from Kyle Shanahan for as long as he's coaching. That might be something that he lets us know once he retires. But the 49ers did buy the insurance plan on Jimmy Garoppolo, and now they enact it. And this is where we talk about the short term and the long term. As of today, I just said this a few minutes ago, the 49ers, like as of this morning, this evening, right now, it's 11 p.m. I think it's good luck. If you notice, it's 11 p.m. Good luck. Get it right there. By the way, those of you wondering about the Andrew Luck jersey, I went to Stanford. So my roommate, Joe, we went with Andrew to Stanford. So we got our hands on an Andrew Luck jersey. It's back there now. But it's just funny. I noticed 11 too. But Lance was QB1 a few hours ago. Garoppolo's QB1 now. I think the 49ers are immediately better, but have a lower long-term ceiling for this 2022 season. And then 2023, it's anybody's guess. We'll see what happens. I mean, people's jobs will start being on the line if this season goes downhill and then Trey Lance doesn't pan out. But that's a long way away. I like to look at the here and now, especially since the 49ers clearly have a really good team this year. So in the here and now, the 49ers ran on 12 of their first 15 plays. Lance got hurt on play 15 today. The game plan changed drastically as soon as Garoppolo came in, 4 straight passes. Shanahan said it was still the Lance game plan, but something was going on there. I think Jimmy either checked into passes or whatever. They weren't passing 4 straight times with Trey Lance. Let's just put it that way. The offense obviously looked markedly different. You had a quarterback with a more accurate arm, a crisper release in the game, just a more comfortable command of the offense in the game, and the 49ers went on to win in dominant fashion. I think it's very fair to say that the 49ers right now, their starting lineup is better than it was this morning. But that was never, I mean, they acknowledged that this whole time. Nobody ever said that Trey Lance right now is better than Jimmy Garoppolo. The gamble was that Trey Lance would be better than Jimmy Garoppolo after a season of development, and because you invested so much in him, you'd have to develop him. But we won't find that out now, at least in 2022. It's this surreal time warp experience, right? Where we're going back to 2021 and before that, where the 49ers are going to try to get it done with Jimmy Garoppolo. But there's a chance, and the best case scenario for the 49ers is that Jimmy is able to recapture that 2017 form when he was a great quarterback in 2017 versus just a good one. And then they would pair that with a better roster than they had in 2017. But it's just absolutely, we're going to dissect this. I've said this a few times today. We're going to dissect this every which way. There's going to be so many ways to cut this up, long-term, short-term. But the bottom line right now is the 49ers are thankful they bought insurance in the quarterback room. I mean, just imagine if they had listened to Twitter. So imagine they had listened to people who just were crying, release him, just cut him. It's bad for the locker room. Yeah, the 49ers season would be over right now. It would be a very, very dark day for the 49ers. It's a dark day. Trey Lance, I mean, you've invested so much in him. There's no denying that's terrible news for the 49ers. But the team also simultaneously dominated Seattle, something that they haven't done in a really, really long time. The type of woodshed beating that they gave the Seahawks today. They simultaneously dominated Seattle, and they verified that they are true contenders this season with a QB who might make them better in the short term. So we've never seen this kind of confluence of terrible news and good news for the 49ers between the Lance injury, but the team showing out, which makes the reactions and emotions of today so uniquely complicated. All right, so that's what I have to say about the quarterback position right now. More of you are going to be showing up here in a little bit, so maybe we get back to the quarterback position, but why don't we go through the whole 49ers roster? Running back position for the 49ers. Running back position for the 49ers is Jeff Wilson and Ty Davis-Price. I have the box score right here. Let's take a look at it. Jeff Wilson ran well. I don't have that up on the screen. 18 carries, 84 yards, 4.7 per carry for Jeff Wilson. Ty Davis-Price, 14 for 33. Not as good at the 2.4 per carry. He had a lot of stuffs in there. He had a long of 20, though. He had that big run. I just didn't think that Ty Davis-Price had much running room. Just kind of by design today. Deebo Samuel obviously ran well. He had the big 51-yarder. I thought Deebo Samuel, I put this under the receiver section. Thought he looked elusive today. I told him in the locker room, and he just smiled because Brandon Ayuk looks like he's running on a trampoline. Looked like he's bouncing around out there as he's running. Deebo Samuel looked like Brandon Ayuk as far as kind of that limberness today. We think of Deebo as a heavier runner, power runner. I thought that the sidestep today, the burst today, he's always had a burst, right? But he has the burst and he dishes out contact. I thought that Deebo today was extremely impressive as far as some of that elusiveness. But back to the running back position. Probably wasn't fair to judge Jeff Wilson on running in the lake last week in Chicago. It didn't look like his burst was fully back last week, but this week it definitely looked back. I thought that Wilson was really impressive, ran physically for the 49ers today, 84 carries, 4.7 per carry. So the 49ers looking good at that running back position. I thought they answered the bell without Elijah Mitchell. The team ran for 189 yards on 45 carries today. Even more production than they had in week one against Chicago. The way that the 49ers controlled the line of scrimmage in this game is a testament to how strong their roster is. And if they could run the football the way they did today with both Lance and Garoppolo in there, then that means that they can control the flow of a lot of football games. They could do and execute their vision of complementary football. Receiver room. Deebo looked elusive today. Ayuk made some catches, 5 for 63 for Ayuk. Samuel was 5 for 44. Wilson caught a couple out of the backfield, 2 for 19. Dwelly had the 38-yard touchdown catch from Garoppolo. Last time the 49ers played Seattle at home, Dwelly caught one from Garoppolo on the opening drive. That was a sunny day, though. Today had some sun, but mostly rain. Jennings, a catch for 4 yards. That might have been Lance's best throw. It was kind of on that little slant, I believe, at the start of the game. Tough throw under the pass rush there near the goal line. But Garoppolo's best throw, to me, was the one to Ray McCloud. Just a bullet out of Garoppolo's arm, 16-yarder to the sideline. For everybody who says Garoppolo can't throw outside the numbers, just put on tape there. He's got an arm. He could throw. He's got arm talent. I think that the deep accuracy, because that's something that, Garoppolo just never was really good at in any of the systems that he ran. I think that's more of an issue, but he can hit that deep out. And he hit one today to Ray McCloud. Anyway, the receiver room obviously looks good for the 49ers. It's hard for a team not to look good when they run 70 plays compared to only 47 for the opposition, 38 minutes of possession for the 49ers. Good news for the 49ers at tight end. Tyler Kroft, that's bad news. He hurt his knee today. We'll see more on that tomorrow. But George Kittle is probably going to be back next week, Sunday Night Football against the Denver Broncos. Offensive line, the 49ers, pass protection looks surprisingly good. I can't wait to watch the tape again on this, but they kept their quarterbacks clean. Lance didn't get hurt on a pass pro play. Trey Lance got hurt on a read option scramble. It was actually the same play that Deebo Samuel got the football on a couple plays earlier in that game for the 51-yarder. So as far as pass pro goes, I think that the 49ers have been surprisingly good in this facet of the game. Jimmy Garoppolo, if they could stay healthy, if they can continue pass protecting well, and we're going to get the final numbers and everything tomorrow, and we're going to go through that. but they're going to give Jimmy a fighting chance. He hasn't benefited from good pass protection during his time with the 49ers. And I think this pass protection through 2 games has graded better than anybody thought it would in their wildest dreams. Again, only 1 sack for the Seattle Seahawks. That came from Boye Mafe. Defensive line, Charles Omenihu and the D-line, those guys are all for blood. That's why we're going to go to the article right now. Shrink it, make it a little bit narrower. There we go. Why Nick Bosa and the 49ers were determined to not let up in their win against the Seahawks. Now, Omenihu had an unbelievable quote, and that comes from this article, by the way. Check it out on The Athletic. I'm going to, copy and paste this, put it in the chat section, and then I'm going to find the Omenihu quote for you guys and just read it, and you guys will probably get chills. Taking a look at this quote from Charles Omenihu. It's on my Twitter, so I just gotta go there. Check out the article, though. It is in the chat section, and we will find this sucker right here. Okay, you guys ready for this? You guys ready for what Charles said? This is Charles Omenihu. Quote, "We just wanted to make sure that this game we had a foot on their throat, that we kill them. Make sure they had no breathing space. Make it so they don't feel any light at the end of the tunnel. Just shut them out." And the 49ers defense did shut them out. It's the 7 points came from special teams. That was the blocked field goal. So this 49ers defense, I mean, we talked so much about how dominant it looked throughout so much of training camp. I don't think that was an exaggeration. They looked really good against Chicago, minus 2 blown coverages that, they didn't have Jimmy Ward. You got to remember that first game without him. And obviously those penalties killed them against Chicago, but they suffocated Chicago, and the Bears got a little bit of daylight and capitalized on it, but they just snuffed out Seattle today. And I mean, there was that pass rush, the second or third to last Seattle drive, where you had Drake Jackson and Bosa get to the quarterback, Geno Smith at around the same time. Bosa got credit for the sack. They actually didn't give any credit to Drake, which is too bad for him. But they're running a game on the left side with Omenihu and Eric Armstead, and another game on the right side. Well, it was actually Drake Jackson and Armstead, and it was Omenihu and Bosa. And Seattle had no answers for it. The 49ers finally got into prime pass rushing territory, and they just got after Geno Smith. And then on the back end, you had the Gibson interception off the Hufanga deflection. You had Emmanuel Mosley playing top-notch football against DK Metcalf. I thought that was a ticky-tack call. That was the 49ers' only penalty on the pass interference. And, of course, Charvarius Ward's first interception as a 49er. Who would have thought that DJ Dallas was going to throw it? So that was – it was just a top-notch effort from the 49ers defense. And if we go to the defensive line room, if we go to our little roster breakdown right here, you will see that these guys are strong as ever. And this is an impressive unit. You're going to pair a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo for the time being with a really good defensive line, better than last year, I think. And then obviously the linebacker room, I mean, they made a step in the long-term direction today by extending Dre Greenlaw. Greenlaw, 2-year extension. I don't have the numbers on it yet. I could look at that later. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. This is news that came in after the game. Greenlaw had 7 tackles today. We were wondering, if the 49ers would choose to extend Greenlaw or Azeez Al-Shire after this season. They could still extend both, but it's not going to be it's not going to be one or the other decided later on. We have at least one of them decided. Now we're going to see if the other is going to get that contract extension or not. So now both Greenlaw and Fred Warner are under contract. The linebackers were, again, good today. The whole defense was good. You can't do what they did to Seattle, just completely snuff them out. I mean, let's go through Seattle's drives today. I mean, this is crazy. Here's Seattle's drives, 9 of them. Punt, punt, interception, interception, halftime, punt, 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 end of the game. 9 drives for Seattle, nothing. They didn't score anything. So championship caliber defense today for the 49ers. Can't wait to see some of the more advanced numbers. And that front seven's a big part of it. Fred Warner's running the show. Meanwhile, the defensive backs for the 49ers, these guys are feasting right now. I talked about how good Mosley looked. Ward had his first pick. Hufanga had the tip that turned into the interception for Tashawn Gibson, who's the 32-year-old safety for the 49ers, 11-year veteran in the league. He now has 28 career interceptions, which is no joke. I mean, the guy's a former All-Pro, for a Pro Bowler, I should say. Pro Bowler for the Cleveland Browns back when Kyle Shanahan was there in 2014. Gibson was, he's been good. He's been solid filling in for Jimmy Ward. But Hufanga was thinking about Gibson. He's like, yeah, this guy almost has 30 career picks. I want to help him get to 30. So obviously Hufanga is an ultimate team player, knowing that's what's going on there. But Hufanga was good again. He might have led the 49ers in tackles again. Look here. No, Greenlaw did. It says 8 combined for Greenlaw, 8 combined for Charvarius Ward, 6 for Hufanga. Bosa, obviously 2 sacks, 4 tackles. So, boy, the 49ers were good on the defensive side of the football. All right, this is an emergency 49ers roster breakdown post Trey Lance injury. Only be going here for a little bit longer, but we're going to talk that quarterback situation as more of you guys file in. But put it up on the screen here. Here's Tim's article, Jimmy Garoppolo, QB for the 49ers. Marcus Thompson talking about it. Maybe going to wade into the comments section. Probably going to be a lot of them. You guys have any questions? No guarantee I put any of these up here, but if you have a good one, maybe I do. Everybody's talking about who to blame. Injuries happen, but I think the 49ers did expose Trey Lance. I really do. I said it after the Arizona game last year, after the 16 runs for Trey. I get it in retrospect. He had the broken finger, but he did get hurt because of those 16 runs. But in a vacuum, you have to do what's best for the team in any given game. That's why I don't try not to fault individual runs as much as a macro picture. And if in the macro picture you're having to run Trey Lance like a running back, and that's his style, you're probably dealing with a heightened injury risk, right? You're certainly dealing with a heightened injury risk. And now that risk became realized. And it lends the question, well, why did the 49ers invest so much in somebody who they have such a high injury risk with? And it's now 4 of 6 seasons under Kyle Shanahan. The 49ers have, for at least some period of time, lost their starting quarterback due to injury. Most of the time, these are season-ending injuries. In 2021, that wasn't the case. And actually, if you look back on it, 2017 doesn't really count. Kyle said 4 of 6. Jimmy finished in 2019 and 2021. Jimmy didn't finish the season in 2018, 2020, and Trey didn't finish the season in 2022. So you get it. It's under 50% success rate for the San Francisco 49ers. They have issues with the quarterback position staying healthy, and I think you could directly point to Lance not staying healthy here to him running the football. Could that have been a one-off freak injury? Yes, but you are exposing him to potential injury the more you run him. I think it was necessary that he was running because they had to try to win the game, and the passing isn't that developed yet, but this is part of what the 49ers signed up for. Again, this is a long-term developmental process for Trey Lance. Over the course of this process, he has to play. That was the plan for 2022, and if he has to play, he has to run because that's who Trey Lance is right now. I did a big 3,000-word piece with Steve Young. Steve Young started as a runner too. They had to teach him how to stay in that pocket and throw the football on time and with precision. Trey isn't at that level yet, and we won't see him get to that level in 2022, which is a major pity for the 49ers. Now, as much as that didn't go their way, luck didn't break in their favor. Luck didn't break in their favor right here. Luck didn't break in their favor. As much as that didn't break in their favor, luck did break into the 49ers' favor with Jimmy Garoppolo coming back as insurance. They were able to purchase an insurance plan they didn't think that they would get. And because of that, this is not the worst day in 49ers history. This is just an extremely confusing day in 49ers history. But that's why I'm here to help you guys break it down. On this confusing day, you saw Trey Lance carted off the field, gave the thumbs up to the fans, and then running to the same tunnel a few hours later, Jimmy Garoppolo pumped his fist heading in. It's Garoppolo's team as the top quarterback again with Trey Lance on injured reserve. A monumental day in 49ers history just because of how much they've invested in Trey Lance and the potential downstream effects. We don't have to talk about all of them. In fact, it's probably irresponsible to talk about too many of them because the bottom line is the 49ers are still a very good football team right now, and they have a chance to do major damage in 2022 based on how they snuffed out Seattle today. And if they continue snuffing opponents out the way that they snuffed out the Seahawks today, well, winning cures everything. People will be questioning stuff a whole lot less because they'll be focused on all the winning that's going on. But this whole situation has turned this into an extremely high stakes situation this season, right? And it probably already was high stakes before. I mean, the 49ers, it was high stakes in a different way, right? The 49ers were handing the keys of a Ferrari to a 22-year-old unproven quarterback. Well, now after handing him the keys, that quarterback has already gotten hurt. He's done for the season in all likelihood. And, they've already burned through that capital. They've already compromised the long-term plan, by accident. It was an injury, but they better, since that long-term plan is in such tenuous danger now, they better get some short-term results because the NFL turns quickly, right? The NFL demands results quickly. So there is a high-stakes game going on now with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. He now retakes the keys to the high-end sports car, to that Ferrari, and it's up to Jimmy Garoppolo to do what he can at that most important position to guide the 49ers to as many wins as possible, because wins are what's going to keep the noise level down. It is maybe going to feel a little bit empty here, especially after people are done with the brunt of all the Lance arguments that will last and probably burn out after a few days here regarding the injury. It will feel weird, not listening to the Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo back and forth, because obviously the second option now is going to be Brock Purdy and not Trey Lance. I'm sure Purdy is going to have some people online going to bat for him. But the key is for Jimmy Garoppolo to stay healthy and to stay efficient. He looked really, really good on Sunday. Let's not underestimate how good Jimmy Garoppolo looked. He came out firing the football outside the numbers down the field, looked confident, was getting rid of the ball on time. That third down conversion, Deebo Samuel near the end of the game in the rain, was really impressive. Jimmy's healthy now. Jimmy wasn't healthy down the stretch of 2021. That obviously compromised his play. He had a ripped up thumb tendon. Then he had a ripped shoulder, the capsule ligament. So he has healed. The ball's coming out of his hand with zip. He looks confident. And again, most importantly, the psyche seems unrestrained. And this could be because he's been through the ringer. I mean, he's hit, quote unquote, rock bottom. He's been demoted to backup, but now he's back QB1. And guess what? Jimmy Garoppolo's got some leverage of the 49ers now. They need Jimmy Garoppolo. They really, really need Jimmy Garoppolo. So maybe he'll be able to improvise a little bit more this year. Maybe he'll be able to not have to just operate within very constraining structure. And I think there occasionally was that with Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that the ability to air it out, do some stuff for the 49ers might make this look a little bit more like 2017. Certainly did today. That was an interesting start to this. Now we have a lot more games to go. Today might have been an outlier too, because Jimmy Garoppolo was, just flying off the, edge of his seat really with the Trey Lance game plan, and the 49ers were adapting on the fly. The future is unwritten, that's for sure, and it continues next week in Denver. But this has been the 49ers emergency roster breakdown post Trey Lance injury. Just a few more minutes, then I'm going to sign off and start resting for the night. It's already 11:30. See what people are saying. Jimmy wants the Harry Potter playbook. The Garoppolo's shoulder surgery helped him. Yeah, I mean, he needed to get healthy, if that's what you're saying. But Jimmy wanted, it might have helped him in a roundabout way because now he's in this position, but he wasn't aiming for this. Jimmy wanted to get traded somewhere else where he'd start for sure. Of course, he's starting for the 49ers in week 2, but it took some crazy stuff happening to get to this point. So yeah, in a roundabout way, it did help him, but that was never the aim of this. Jimmy's the man, and this is what Frank Saldivar said. Jimmy's the man and leader in that locker room. Jimmy went through blood, sweat, and tears. The core of that roster organically earned loyalty. It's probably true. I think Trey Lance had earned loyalty too. I think there was a lot of respect for Trey Lance. Just it's part of the business. It's a sport with brutal injuries, especially given the cards that Trey Lance had to play with. He was still a running quarterback. He was still learning how to deliver from the pocket. He still had a season of development ahead of him. And I think that's where Kyle Shanahan made his biggest miscalculation. We saw a little bit with RG3 in Washington, right? Running the quarterback a lot, gets hurt. Trey Lance running the quarterback a lot, gets hurt. You have to learn how to operate from the pocket to protect yourself. The issue is sometimes you're going to be thrust into game action before you can do that. And then you have to rely on the legs. When you rely on the legs, the injury rate goes up. No, Kyle Shanahan is not on the hot seat. That's ridiculous. The 49ers just delivered their most dominant win over Seattle in Shanahan's tenure. Let's look at this in perspective. The 49ers have shown they have a really, really potentially good team over the past 2 weeks. Even the Chicago game showed a lot of potential, but they just penalized themselves to death. They really flexed this week. This team keeps on winning. Nobody's on the hot seat. Now, any NFL team, if they start losing, and you start talking about it, but not now for the 49ers. They obviously suffered a really bad break, pun intended, with the Trey Lance situation today. Did they increase their odds of something like that happening? Potentially. They misevaluate the speed at which Trey Lance would develop into a pocket passer, thereby exposing him to more injury risk. Potentially. We don't know the answer for sure, but these are all potentially convincing arguments if we end up digging further into this, and we'll probably learn more as time goes along. But they haven't done anything that amounts to malpractice, and most importantly, they've only won when they've had a healthy, starting capable quarterback, and they still have that in Jimmy Garoppolo. So it's not a hot seat situation by any stretch of the imagination. I have some people saying that Jimmy won't last the season. He lasted the 2019 season. He actually lasted 2021. He played hurt through the end of that season. He's a tough quarterback. So we will see what ends up being the case. I mean, again, a lot of injuries, a lot of that is a fluke, product of fluky situations. Sometimes you just get bad injury luck. Sometimes you get good injury luck. Some guys are more prone to injury than others. I get it, but it's hard to differentiate between the two. And Garoppolo has played a full healthy season. He has finished the season even where he was hurt in 2021. We'll see what happens moving forward. Robert Rodriguez, I don't know why people love Jimmy so much just to see him play awful in the playoffs. Well, Jimmy was hurt in the playoffs last year. He was playing with 2 different injuries, and he played better than Aaron Rodgers against Green Bay. He played better than Dak Prescott against Dallas, and he was hurt for both of those games. So it's not easy to play well in the playoffs. We're probably talking about Jimmy outplaying Matt Stafford, too, if Jaquiski Tartt holds on to the pick in the NFC Championship game. So we can't, talk in these black and whites. And he did it with a ripped-up ligament and a torn shoulder capsule. So there's a reason why Garoppolo has so much respect in the 49ers locker room. There's a reason why he played really well today, healthy in the rain. And it's because he's a good quarterback. I don't think anybody's saying he's a great quarterback. He might have delivered great efficiency and great play in 2017. Then it seemed that he kind of regressed in a lot of ways over his time with the 49ers, but still played high-level football, clutch football for them. I mean, it's the reason why the team made the Super Bowl, and you don't do it with bad quarterback play. There's a reason they made the NFC Championship game last year. You don't do it with bad quarterback play. So you have to understand that there are gradients to this. It's not black or white. And you also have to understand that the 49ers have to deal with Jimmy Garoppolo now. He is the quarterback moving forward, so they have to make it work with him. But, I mean, you talk about Trey. I think the biggest pity of this is that his development is just stalled right now. And for the 49ers, was so much invested in him, they wanted to get a good beat on where Trey Lance was by midway of year 2. That way they could have maximized and taken advantage of the rookie deal. Now the soonest that's going to come is probably midway year 3, probably even later. Then he's entering his final year of his rookie contract. So to me, that whole Trey Lance thing today, that fell off the rails. But the 49ers have to keep their focus on the short term because their roster calls for it right now. They have such a good roster as we speak. All right, I wrote about the 49ers defense. I wrote that quote for you. I'm going to get going. Hopefully we covered the whole roster today. Just a fascinating game. I'm going to be on more tomorrow. Put this in the chat section. Go read my article about Nick Bosa. Thank you all for joining. 49ers today didn't have a lot of injury luck, but they did have luck when they were able to bring Jimmy Garoppolo back. They bought insurance, and that insurance did pay off. All right, everybody, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and obviously do this right up here. Subscribe to The Athletic. Check me out on Twitter at Lombardi himself. Thanks very much. Oh, yes. Welcome to our 2022 coverage of the 49ers. It is wild. Hollywood twists and turns indeed, and we have a lot more to talk about as this moves forward. Thank you, everybody. We will talk to you soon.